Islam. So we're continuing where we left off from the mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East. This is chapter 12, entitled Yahshua Explains to Casper the Meaning of Silence and the Wisdom of Allah and Man. Now in the early morning, Yahshua came again to teach and heal. A light not comprehended shone about as though some might spirit overshadowed it. So a light that was not comprehended. A Magnus, a Magnus noted this and asked him privately. Now a Magnus, a synonym for Magnus would be like noble. But I would recommend everybody look it up so everybody know what Magnus means for their own self. So a Magnus noted this and asked him privately to tell from whence his wisdom came and what is the meaning of the light. So a noble's asking Yahshua privately, what does this wisdom mean? What does this light mean? And Yahshua said, there is a silence where the soul may meet. It's God Allah. And there the fount of wisdom is. And all who enter are immersed in light and filled with wisdom, love, and power. You got to meet in silence. It must be silence or meditation to meet the God Allah within. And there is where the wisdom and the light and the love and power, right? The Magnus said, or the noble said, tell me about this silence and this light that I may go and there abide. And Yahshua said, the silence is not circumscribed. It is not a place closed in with walls or rocky steeps, nor guarded by the swords of man. Men carry with them all the time and secret place where they meet Allah within. In matters not where men abide on mountaintop in the deep vale, in the marts of trade, or in a quiet home, may at one time fling wide the door of the soul and find the house of Allah. It is within the soul. One may not be so much disturbed by noise of business and words and thoughts of men. It goes all alone into the valley or the mountain pass. So once again, we're talking about meditation. We're talking about being at a state where words of men or noise of business and words or thoughts of men, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you when you're channeled into within. You are at a certain zen, as some would say. You're at a certain peace where nothing outside of you affects you. And when life's heavy load is pressing hard, it is far better to go out and seek a quiet place to pray and meditate. Let me back to now the word meditate surfaces. The silence in the kingdom of the soul, which is not seen by human eyes. When in silence, phantom forms may flit before the mind, but they are all subservient to the will. The will is the key. This is the superior force. Willpower. The master soul may speak, and they are gone. If you would find this silence of the soul, you must yourself prepare the way. to find the silence of the soul, to find that peace in your life where you are at a state where you are at peace at all times. Nothing frustrates you. You clicking. You waking up feeling good. Can't wait to start the day. All the things that all the seeds you done planted is blossoming. Things looking good. Relationships you got with people, prosperous, fruitful, right? That's preparing the way. You got to prepare, because preparing the way is essentially saying the actions that you take means the door that you're going down. And that's all, everybody has that choice. So you can prepare the way to have a peaceful life or not. None but the pure in heart may enter here. So to reach that peaceful Zen, quote unquote, status, or, you know, that peaceful state, only the pure in heart may enter here. And we're talking about being alive. We're not talking about dying, going to heaven. We're talking about based on actions over a course of time, years gonna pass, and then your life gonna be a certain way based on the decisions you made. And you must lay aside all fears and doubts and troubled thoughts. Your human will must be absorbed by love divine. Then you will come into a consciousness of the holy breath. Your human will must be absorbed by love. So you can have willpower, but in the vein of love and divine. And when that takes place, you will come into the consciousness of the holy breath. Holy breath, meditating. Sounds like yoga. Activation. You are within a holy place, and you will see upon a living shrine the candle of Allah, a flame, that light within. And when you see it burning there, look deep within the temple of your brain. You will see it all glow, see it all aglow. And every part from your head to your foot are candles, all in place, just waiting to be lighted by the flaming torch of love. So the intention, the road you go down or the door you go through is based on a choice that everyone makes. And if these choices have love as the intent, you're talking about making actions through your heart chakra, right? So you're a humanitarian, and then all your decisions will be okay in the love basket. You know what I mean? And love activates the light, as we've been reading so far. It takes the love to activate the candles, right? From your head to your foot, right? Or, or candles all in place, just waiting to be lit by the flaming torch of love. And when you see the candles all aflame, just look, and you will see with eyes of soul the waters of the fount of wisdom rushing on, and you may drink and there abide. And the curtains apart, and you are where the ark of Allah rests, whose covering is the mercy seat. Fear not to lift the sacred board. The tables of the law are in the ark concealed. Take them and read them well, for they contain all the precepts that man will ever need. And in the ark, the magic wand, for they contain all prophecy, lies waiting for our hands. It is the key to all the hidden meanings of present, future, and past. The cherubim have guarded well for every soul this treasure box, and whosoever will may enter in and find his own. Now Casper heard the Hebrew master speak. And remember talking about Yahshua. So Casper heard, remember Casper was supposed to be a prestigious sage in so-called Greece. Now Casper heard the Hebrew master speak, and he exclaimed, quote, "Behold, the wisdom of Allah has come to men, and Yahshua went his way, and in the sacred grove of Sirius was met. He taught and healed the sick. He healed the sick." So I want to open the floor and have a conversation about this chapter. What stood out, highlights.
I mean, just from the ending right there, it says he healed the sick. That's in correlation with the Bible.
Now, what were they sick from? What was the sickness? What was their symptoms though? Like, is that metaphysical or is that literal?
Seems it could be both, maybe. Because if you're out of balance, that's a form of sickness.
Yeah, it was also them sick. Them not knowing how to channel into their light. You know what I mean? To tune out everything and actually like that meditation part where they mentioned the meditating, but it sounds like, basically teaching them how to heal themselves through the meditation while silencing the mind and listening.
Yep.
And they have to tap into love to do that.
Yep.
Ashe.
Yep. That vibration.
Perfect chapter for today.
So I was talking with somebody about chakras a couple of days ago. Well, not even a couple of days ago. I want to say this was about a month. And they were explaining to me, like, you know how each chakra is associated with a rose petal, like the lotus petals. And they told me that when you add up all of the rose petals, the lotus petals, it equals 144,000. So I also had the same conversation with the same person about the whole 144,000 being saved to restart the whole new world and everything. And they were telling me like that didn't make sense to them because there's so many people in the world. Like, why would God only save like the 144,000? So I just had a download last night about it. And then this chapter just basically took me to what my download was from last night about this whole meditation and stuff. That whole 144,000 is not a particular number of people. It's the people who know how to unlock those chakras, the 144,000. Like, we read stuff with our literal eyes, but the way that is given to us, the messages, we still have to break those messages down and decipher them. So literally, it's not the 144,000 people that are going to be saved to start the whole new world. No, it's the people who know how to tap into that system and activate those 144,000 petals within themselves, like the whole meditating, the Zen, all that. So yeah, this was very interesting.
Fire.
Wow.
That's so funny that you say that because I was just having a conversation about 2 days ago.
Oh shit! Let me go mute real quick.
See, when it's fired, when the fire truck comes.
Right. It was so crazy because this conversation was with it was another noble and explaining about the Bible. And I was like, I grew up with the Bible. So moving on, he mentioned that same number. He was like, God is only gonna save that amount of people because everyone else is just, doing like, homophobia and not following, the commandments or whatever. And I'm like, I said, so, and I asked him, I said, so why do you think just that specific number? And then he couldn't really explain it, but he gave me, I forgot the Bible verse, he gave me the verse and everything. And it literally said in this Bible, and it was the King James Version, it had that exact same number. So it's just funny how everything is, coming together. And it's like, that's not really what it was supposed to mean, is that he, like, Phoenix said, he's not gonna like save these people. It's how many people, like she said, are tapped into that higher elevation, higher vibrations, and do that. So now I'm like looking at it, okay, now I need to kind of tap in back and be like, well, look at it this way. And maybe, because I mean, like I told him, I'm like, if God is so good, then why does he do all these bad things? And he was just then, throwing out these Bible verses. I'm like, okay. But nothing wrong with, like I told him, it's nothing wrong with reading the Bible. I would love to kind of be able to decipher both, because that opens up my knowledge and I'm aware, and I can, correlate things, and then things start to make sense. So now what he said about that, and hearing it from Phoenix too, it now makes more sense. So that's crazy.
Islam.
144 adds up to 9 too.
That's
The highest number.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
am.
That's the highest real number.
I just wrote that down too.
So also on the meditation, and we all know the pineal gland works better in the dark, as far as that's how you activate melatonin in a dream state and your inner realm. So in meditation, darkness can really boost darkness on the outside. Well, basically what you're saying is silence. So silence of light, silence of sound, it's deprivation from the outside, so you get your internal light can shine and show you what it needs to show you.
Like a prism, huh?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, Panuna. And that's another brother that came in here. Islam, happy holy day to everybody that came in during the reading. Yaka Bay.
Islam Nobles, happy holy day.
Happy holy day.
Happy holy day.
Islam, mother, happy holy day. Happy holy day.
Islam, everybody.
Did anybody else have any thoughts on this chapter? All right. Good. So we'll continuing from where we left off in Astro Diagnosis by Max Wendell. We're entering a new section. We're dealing with sex and throat.
Scorpio and Taurus.
Mm-hmm. And that's the opposites.
Yeah.
So we are told.
My fault.
So we are told in the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, that's a reference of a book, page 269, that when the ego entered into possession of its vehicles, it became necessary to use part of the creative force for the building of the brain and the larynx, The latter was originally a part of the sex organ. The larynx was built while the dense body was yet bent together in the bag-like shape, which is still the form of the human embryo. As the dense body straightened and became upright, part of the creative organ remained with the upper part of the dense body and later became the larynx. It is always possible to make the lesson stronger by using two horoscopes. In this case, we will begin with the horoscope number 8A, which is that of a man born April 22nd, 1881 at 2 p.m. The common or mutable sign of Virgo is on the ascendant and common signs on all the angles. In this horoscope, we will show the law of the vicious circle, which the doctors are so interested in and which is so baffling, and how the law proves the truth of the statement quoted from the Cosmoconception. We have Saturn, the Sun, and Jupiter in conjunction, and Saturn and Jupiter all parallel to the Moon. Neptune is in conjunction with Venus, and both are square the Moon. All these planets except the Moon are in Taurus, the sign which has rule over the throat. We find the planet of impulse, Uranus, retrograde on the ascendant in Virgo and in opposition to Mars. These planets are in common or mutable signs and in angles. Thus, they are strong by house position and placed in weak-willed signs. Uranus and Mars give the desire for pleasure and the gratification of the senses. Mars is sextile to Venus and Neptune in Taurus, a sign which makes one apt to drift along the same path. Taurus ruling the sense of taste. Neptune and Venus in Taurus, square to the Moon in Aquarius, will lead to the habit of drink and also to irregular association with women friends. For the Moon is the ruler of the house of friends, the 11th house. We find no planets in Scorpio, the sign which rules the generative organs, but Uranus, afflicted by Mars, gives a tendency to venereal diseases. Syphilis was the net result. Therefore, we may see that Taurus, which rules the throat and larynx, here expresses itself through the opposite point of the vicious circle of the fixed sign, namely Scorpio, ruler of the generative organs. The Moon in Aquarius, the third point of the circle, is also a contributing factor in this situation. The second case, we will use a plain figure as the hour of birth is lacking. This is the horoscope number 8B of a woman born November 12, 1865. In this figure, we find Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and the Sun, and Uranus all in the sign of Scorpio, which has rule over the generative organs, with Saturn and Mars in conjunction and square to Jupiter. The Sun and Uranus are also in conjunction with each other, and the Sun is parallel to Jupiter. This woman had her tonsils removed at puberty, right? So she had her tonsils removed. This is just a little guess because we remember about a couple chapters ago dealing with the opposites. You remove your tonsils, it's gonna mess up your genital areas, or vice versa. This woman had her tonsils removed at puberty. The tonsils are ruled by Taurus. Due to Mars in conjunction with Saturn and the Sun in conjunction with Uranus in the sign of Scorpio, she unfortunately yielded to the vicious practice of abortion, which so weakened the function of the generative organs that removal of the ovarian tubes was necessary. Here again, we see the vicious circle of the fixed signs in operation. Taurus and Scorpio being the points affected. You may see by comparison of these two horoscopes how the generative organs and the throat are closely in sympathy with each other, and that abuses of the function of one of them often expresses themselves through the impaired function of the opposite organ, right? Yeah, we can stop right here. Yeah, so let's open the floor. Any thoughts on this chapter? Let me look at the chat. Oh yeah, Islam, Dr. Bay. I'm just now looking at the chat. Yeah, Islam, happy holiday. Yeah, anybody have any thoughts on this chapter? This was very insightful to me. Look at this. Heavy clustering. Taurus. But once again, I'll go ahead. Somebody can say something? Go ahead.
I was just about to say, like, basically after reading over this, what I wrote down is everything is a choice. And once we basically understand how the planets and their placements affect us, we can make better choices on how to become like better people. But if we're not aware of how we're being affected by those planets and stuff, then we just walking around blind.
Mm-hmm. And you see how the opposite thing always shows its head. You can't shake it. You know, the throat, you mess with your throat areas. Generative functions gonna mess up. You know what I mean?
So above, so below.
Can't shake it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Laws is always
that that has a lot to do with like sexual abuse too. Like I think I've said this before in one of the Zooms. People who go through sexual abuse, their throat chakra becomes blocked and they don't speak up for themselves or they don't express their true selves. Like so trauma to certain areas really do play effect on different parts of your body. Like
yeah.
That's so true.
Any thoughts? Other thoughts on this chapter?
can you scroll down so I can see that cluster again?
Oh, okay. You can see you on your phone or your laptop?
Yeah, I'm on my phone.
You can see
So
it?
like when I read birth charts, but I read my birth charts differently from like how I taught myself how to read. So like this ninth house has to do with your higher mind and your higher education, like your spiritual knowledge. And then all of these clusters in here, that's like a spiritual imbalance if you don't know how those particular energies are affecting you. And then the opposite house, away from that, the third house has to do with your siblings and your neighborhood, your community and shit like that. So I look at this as like somebody who like low-key like would feel isolated and feel like they're alone with this whole ninth house energy. Nine is the hermit. And then the house over here is empty where the siblings and shit go. Like I read shit different and people probably be like, oh, that's not right. But for whatever reason, all of that shit come out accurate. So I always tell people, trust your intuitions. Don't let people tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong. Well, who said we have to do stuff a certain way if we're still coming up with the correct answer? Go with the flow. Do what the fuck your spirit tell you to do. Like,
yeah, intuition, you know. And that's why it's important to back to the last piece secret mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East, and getting those candles lit. You can't just get them lit. It's a prerequisite of reaching a level of peace
hmm
with the vein of love. So once you more at peace, though that intuition antenna is gonna get more keen, and then you know what I'm saying, you just know off top. It won't be no discussion like, oh yeah, that's the answer. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but when we're not at peace, it's kind of hard to get that intuition, discernment that you spoke of. You know,
Because it's other thoughts, outside thoughts running through your mind. That's why you got to isolate and make sure that whatever thoughts you're having belong to you and not nobody else before you actually make decisions. That's where that whole impulsiveness comes in at. Like, you being impulsive, not even realize that you acting off of other people's emotions and not your own. Like,
yeah, that's crazy. Like it's kind of like when you watching something and you can get stirred up. You watching or a basketball game or whatever. You get riled up. You get mad. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
You're not even getting paid to play or nothing. You just, you know what I'm saying? But that's an example. That's a mild example. But you know, it's back to controlling. You know, not letting something outside of you dictate your emotional state. You know, that's the
Mm-hmm.
to get to that point and be at peace, be comfortable about the things you're doing. You know, and the life that you're creating, decisions you're making.
Mm-hmm.
It take a lot to get to that. That's a unique state. Of Obey Islam, happy holy day. But let's see. Did anybody have any other thoughts on this astral diagnosis chapter? So, nothing to assume that the dog barking. Okay. All right. All right. So this Sunday, matter of fact, let me stop the recording.